Okay, so not sure where to start with this. Well, I guess I should start with a little bit of history. I don't want to repeat myself too much from previous videos, but some of you will know, of course, that I've spent 4 years trying to get this well to an operational state, probably better than new. And I didn't even realize that's what I was doing, but it is what I was doing. This well was probably drilled in the 60s or 70s. It's not very deep. It's a deep well, but it's not very deep. It's about 130 feet deep. They didn't run the well casing all the way down to the water level. They ran it down to bedrock. There's been a lot of problems with this well. So I've done a lot of work to it. I haven't spent a lot of money on it, fortunately. It just hadn't required a lot of money. But I originally started out with this well pump right here. I've talked about it several times. When we got here, the well was exposed, it was open, anything could run down into it. That next year, so 1 full year after we moved here, I decided to revamp this thing. That was after the tiny house was built. So I studied and studied and studied, and I ended up putting a well packer in with a new well liner casing. The casing I felt like was broke, and water was getting in through the broken casing. So I patched it up using a well liner. So now the hole is 4 inches deep instead of 6 inches. So I put a new pump in it, because this pump would have been too big with all the guards on it and different things. I could have taken the guards off, which somebody suggested in one of the YouTube videos I watched. Then I had to pour this concrete, because the concrete that was already there was it pretty much disintegrated. And then I built this building, and all of this building leans this direction downhill. So you'll see a ditch here. Well, actually you'll see a tub here. I've collected rainwater, but there's a ditch here. And so any rain that comes off the roof here falls into this ditch, trying to keep that water away from it. I put a French drain around it, but that didn't work. So I ended up digging a ditch over here to keep the water from running down into the well. And after 3 years, I know this is the 4th year, but last spring I figured out the ditch issue. I haven't had dirty water running down into the well anymore. Well, then I realized, even though I wasn't getting dirty water, occasionally the water would get dirty. And what I realized was the well pump kept falling down, and it's bottoming out onto, well, maybe not even bottoming out, just getting too close to the bottom of the well, and it's picking up sediment. What was happening was my rope that holds the well pump up keeps stretching, and it's stretching about 4 inches. Finally got that resolved just recently. The other thing that I've recently done last summer was I was able to finally get the well to run off the solar panels. Prior to that, I was running it off this generator. Well, prior to that, I was running it off this generator, but it's finally died after 8,000 hours. I love that generator. I hate that it died on me. But this one is a propane gas dual fuel generator, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I do love it. I was running it off propane, which made it very hard to start. That's a whole different video. I've talked about the compression lock it was getting. I've resolved that problem. But boy, it was a nightmare coming out here trying to start this thing with that compression lock. But I was running it off propane because I would only fill the well maybe once a week or so. And if you leave gas in a generator, that gas can corrode and harm the gaskets in the carburetor. It's happened to me with another Champion that I had. So I ran the propane so I didn't have gas sitting in the generator. It got so cold the generator wouldn't start. I ended up having to take the generator into the house to warm up so I could start it. A huge advantage being able to start running it off the solar panels. What had happened was Carolyn's son stayed with us for a while in that camper. We bought the camper for him, and he needed air conditioning. So I rewired and redesigned and re-engineered our solar panels so it could provide him with electric for the air conditioning. Well, about the time I got everything mastered and fixed and perfected, he moved out. But that sure did leave us with a lot of electric that we could run the well off of. And I've not had to run the generator at all, hardly. I mean, I've ran it a few times just because I chickened out. I would be a few days cloudy, and I think, man, we're running low on water, because we got 275 gallons in the IBC tank, which I am going to show you here in a minute. And it would get down 40, 50 gallons, and I'd be like, I probably should fill it. So I would start the generator. So just a couple times I did that. As you know, we've been through this cold spell. The nice thing about the cold spell was I didn't have to start the generator. I could run the well off solar panels, so I didn't even have to deal with this. We got through the cold spell, and then it got cloudy. The tank was full when it got cloudy, and it just stayed cloudy for, I think, maybe 2 weeks. We decided we weren't going to do any laundry during those 2 weeks. We would wait until it got sunny again. I did everything I could to resist the temptation to fill the well, or the tank, I should say, with the generator. I resisted it just wholeheartedly. It was tough for me. I don't know why. I feel like I got, well, I do know why. The reason I want to keep that tank fairly topped off, let's say the well pump breaks. I want to have enough water in the tank that we'll have enough water until I can get the well pump traded out. So we didn't do any laundry, but we did everything else. So yesterday, it got sunny. Now I was going to make this video yesterday. Decided against it because there was a little hiccup in what happened. And I wanted to see if that hiccup would clear up today, and it did. So yesterday I came out and I started the well to fill the tank. The tank was half empty or half full, however you want to look at it. I always look at things, how is it trending? I'm a realist, not a pessimist or an optimist. I'm a realist. If you're pulling something, like if you're drinking the water and it's half level, well, it's trending down, so it's half empty. If you are filling it up and it's at half level, then it's half full because you're going to continue filling. That's a realist idea. It was half empty, and as I was filling it became half full, and it was going to take a long time to fill. I mean, that is just going to be a massive amount of water. At the same time, I was also doing laundry. Now think about that. We're pulling all this wattage for the well pump, 300 watts for the wash machine, and whatever the freezer pulls when it turns on. So I started filling it about 9:30. Started laundry at 9 o'clock or 8:30, 9 o'clock. I started filling at 9:30 because the sun was just now starting to get onto the solar panels. But what we need to think about is the batteries were not charged at all. The sun hadn't hit the solar panels to charge them up yet. So I was really going to be pushing the system. I wanted to see if it would work. And it did. The solar panels went up to 60 amps, which is what I can produce. That's all the solar panels can produce. That's all they got. Went straight up to 60 amps, which was fascinating. I mean, that was just great for me. I turned on the baby monitor. I have a baby monitor to make sure that I'm not going to overload or underload, I should say, the inverters. So I have a 2,000 watt inverter. It will squeal if the batteries get too low. It did squeal about every 2 or 3 minutes. I forget what the actual timing is, but what that tells you is the batteries are as low as they can go. They can't go any lower or the inverter is going to shut off. So it's just a little warning is what it is. And then when it shuts off, you get a continuous squeal. So I let it go. I just went ahead and said, let's do the beep beep. The solar panels were able to keep up. It did discharge the batteries. And the way I know this, because it took a good portion of the day to get to charge batteries back up. What I normally try to do is I try to keep the batteries from ever getting too low. I don't want to damage the batteries. So I have a lot of batteries, but I don't have a lot of load on them. That way I'm never getting close to completely discharging the batteries. And they'll last longer this way. Well, yesterday I decided to go ahead and just use the batteries as much as I needed to get the tank filled. I just wanted to see if the system would work. I would say it took maybe 3 hours. Now remember, in the summertime, sun is more direct on the solar panels, and they're just kind of like a shading you get this time of the year. The sun is further away, and the days are shorter, a lot shorter. So I wanted to make sure that the batteries got charged up before the sun went down at about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they did. Everything worked perfectly as far as electric went. So I filled the tank. Again, Carolyn was doing laundry, so she's taking 40 gallons as I'm trying to fill it back up. By the time we got to the tank filled, I went ahead and switched everything back over, and the water was starting to get dirty. Now, the reason it was getting dirty was the water level started getting too low. Eventually, the pump would have just stopped sucking water. What happens is this is a theory, but I think it's a pretty solid theory, is as the water level starts to get low, water starts to dribble down into the well. Whereas normally, the water level's up high, and the water just kind of keeps it full. There's no splashing, but as the water level gets too low, water starts to splash down to fill the well up, and it's bringing up that sediment from the bottom. But we didn't run out of water. It was just starting to get dirty, The filters didn't get clogged, which means that it wasn't dirty for very long, and we didn't run out of water. So everything seemed to work. Now, here was my concern is when we came back today, this is why I didn't make the video yesterday, because in my mind, we had not succeeded. The water got dirty. I wanted to run the test to see if we could fill the tanks after 2 weeks of clouds without any problems. Well, the water got dirty. So I needed to see if I could start the well back up today without the water being dirty. Normally what will happen is that water gets, everything gets churned up from that dribbling, but then that dirt will settle back down. That's what it's supposed to do. It was on the bottom before, so it should go back to the bottom. And I ran it this morning just to test it. And as you can see, that is just blue water. Now the sun kind of makes it look a little greenish, but if we can get a block of the sun, it's blue. So the water cleared up just like I had hoped. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the tank again today because Carolyn did a second load of laundry to get caught up. The inverter's on right now, so as you know, I put a switch in, and this switch makes my life a lot easier. I turn it on, and you might be able to hear that air hissing out. So the water's coming up that pipe because I always keep the pipe empty. I let that water drain back down. That way it won't freeze. And it takes, I don't know, you may time it. There's the water. Now, one of the things I got to do is I got to turn it way down. So it's just barely coming out. This is important so I don't run that water too low and it starts to get dirty. Now, yesterday, I had it really low. And for some reason, when we're starting to get full, I don't know, probably had another 10 or 15 gallons left, I turned it up a little bit. And I think that's why we got dirty, is because I turned it up. I should have just left it alone. So next time we test this, I won't touch it. But you can see that I don't have it coming out hardly at all. Just let it run real slow. As long as it's on the solar panels, it doesn't really matter. So you can see that with Carolyn doing the laundry today, she used 40 gallons of water. And this bar right here usually indicates that we've used 50 gallons. So that's about right. You know, using the water for dishes and showers and all that, plus the laundry. This will take a half hour, 15, 20 minutes maybe, to a half hour to fill up. I do have that a little bit too low. I should turn it up just a tad. But it doesn't take much to turn it up a little higher. You really don't, when you have a well this shallow, even though it's a deep well, you really don't want it to filter. Oh, that's a little better. Yeah. When I say filters, I have two house filters here that you can buy at Walmart. This first one is a sediment filter, so it's a white little, I don't know, some sort of fiber that they use. You can buy some that is just string that they wrap around. And that's 5 microns. And I've noticed that our water is really clean. Our Berkey has to do very little work filtering the water. And then the second one is a charcoal filter. I used to have 3 filters, but I took one of them off. I thought it was a waste. So this one's the charcoal filter. Again, you can buy these at Walmart. You're supposed to have a better connection. The threads of the hose don't fit the threads of the filter very good. But it does screw in there. So I've never bought anything to make sure that the threads matched up correctly or anything. It works, and there's very little leaking, as you can see. There might be a drip here or there. And with this system I have in place, my tank doesn't get dirty. I've never had a dirt problem. The only time I've had a dirt problem was last winter. I decided not to use the filters anymore. What I was doing was I was putting the hose and the filters and everything in here after I get done using them so they wouldn't freeze. That was a pain. The hoses would break. It was just a pain. I didn't like it. So what I did this year made things a lot easier. I just disconnected the hoses, brought the filters inside, let the hoses drain. I just laid the hoses out in the yard so they're running downhill. Let the hoses drain, and it's been a lot easier. I know people seem to think that they have ideas that they want me to do that they think is better. If you want to do something that you consider better, then you should do it. This is what I like, and I really do have a hard time convincing people I don't need to change anything. It works very well. I'm very happy with it. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It forces me to come outside every day to fill the tank, which is actually a good thing. It forces me to walk up and down the hill, turn the inverter on. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things that they think I should be able to have enough batteries to run the well pump at night and have just a regular system like every other house. But one of the reasons we want to live this way is to force ourselves to be active. I believe Americans have gotten too lazy, and they work so much harder at being able to just flip a switch so things work, and then talk about how easy things are. But if you're having to go to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to pay for these things that you call easy, I'm just going to stay here, hook up a hose every now and then, every day or so, but I'm very content. So if you'll click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about Kamala Harris just banned milk. So hope I can inspire you to figure out your problems, even if it takes 4 years, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.